welcome to the Vietnamese American Chamber of Commerce How I Did It series. We're going to get right into it. So, hello, welcome. What is your name and where are you originally from?
My name is Linda Tran Bui. I was born in Saigon, Vietnam. Came here when I was, I don't know, 7 or 8. So been here a while. I won't tell you my age, but I've been around for a while.
What motivated you to pursue your current field or profession?
It's a combination. I think it was by default initially. I enter UCLA wanting to be a doctor like everybody else I knew. That was the thing back then. But I did very poorly in organic chemistry, ended up dropping out. I'm sure a lot of people can share that experience, and had nowhere to go. Bunch of science classes. I ended up with psychobio as a degree, and really was at a loss afterwards. Ultimately, I volunteered and went back east to DC for an organization called Boat People SOS, and we advocate on behalf of refugees. It was really where I relearned a lot of my Vietnamese too, and got to go to a lot of congressional hearings and listen to people speak. We also were part of delegations. I got to travel to France, to Canada, and just all over the States. So it was in that context that I realized who I was, which is somebody who believed in justice and fairness, and wanted an opportunity to demonstrate that I can do this. So anyway, that's when my love kind of started. So that's how I ended up in the path that I went on.
Okay, all right. And for those of you who don't know, who are listening, can you tell us about what you do currently right now as a job?
I am a bankruptcy lawyer. I'm both a bankruptcy lawyer and a fiduciary. So in my capacity as a bankruptcy lawyer, I represent mostly businesses, the lower end of mid-sized businesses. So nothing more than, like $50 million in revenue. And I'm also a panel trustee. There's only 1,000 of us in the country. And I act as a fiduciary on behalf of other creditors. We just, our 1,000 people have recover probably, or I should say annually, we recover about 2.5 billion and disperse that much to creditors. So I wear both hats. I work for a business law firm, and we have 3 departments. There is the litigation, the transactional, and the insolvency. So I'm in the insolvency department.
Well, thank you for sharing. And going back to OCHEM, you got that far. I just got to human anatomy before I decided I didn't want to go that direction. So kudos
Oh,
to you.
well, I don't know about that. That's GE though. That's part of GE. You got anatomy. That's probably further.
So what are some of the challenges or obstacles you face along the way getting to where you are today?
I think my biggest challenges is nature. So in my family, I am one of 4 kids. I'm a female. I have a younger sister and 2 older brothers. And to do well in my family, you generally have to be domiciled, be the dutiful daughter, and clean, help around the house. So when I told my parents I wanted to go to DC and want to explore this possibility of maybe becoming a lawyer, they were very against it. Mostly because they know who I am, which is somebody who doesn't like confrontation. Growing up, I gave in very easily to my siblings because that was just the thing to do. And I think if you trace it back, it's probably a survival thing. So, and when we came over, it's a big household and we live in very small places, smaller little apartments. So anyway, my parents were against it, and I had to find, because we didn't know any lawyers, family who I can talk to about being a lawyer. So I had to find my way with my own style. And then I learned that you don't have to be aggressive. You don't have to be
Mhm.
loud and obnoxious. You can be a great lawyer by being, somewhat of an introvert, if you
Mhm.
will. You don't have to be out there all the time. And so that's a challenge that I had to face. And I think I overcame through the years.
Yeah. Can you expand a little bit about how you overcame it? Was there one time where just the light bulb came off where it's like, this is what I have to like, I don't have to be overtly outward, but I can still use my, be introvert and be who I need to be? Or was it kind of a gradual process for that realization?
Definitely a gradual process in terms of implementation. The
Mm.
realization came pretty early. I had to prove to my parents that I can do this. Because they kept saying, you won't make any money. Nobody would hire you. You can't even represent yourself when you're advocating at home. You let your brothers
Mm.
step all over you.
Mm.
How can you advocate for anybody else? Um, so it was definitely introspection and just sort of baby steps and
Mhm.
realizing that my voice can come from writing. I don't have to
Mhm.
always be out there and be outspoken like my siblings, but I can
Mhm.
do it very softly and still get where I need to go and convince people. And even when I convert sort of like the writing into the verbal, because there's oral advocacy in bankruptcy. You're in court. I mean, bankruptcy is both transactional and litigation. So, anyway, slowly I learned that, oh, if I just talk, it's okay. Even if it's
Mhm.
I'm not as eloquent, I can still advocate as long as I can, um, you know, be logical and explain.
That helps a lot because I think for a lot of especially Vietnamese people, kind of especially the females too. Like you said, they have a certain the family has a certain expectation, right? And so now coming over and obviously new culture and having the self realization to go to DC, I need to do this not only for myself but also to show other my parents that this is doable. So from DC, go to school, end up back here. You've had a quite a story career. What are you most proud of, or what would you say some of the successes of your or achievements that you're most proud of throughout your career or your life?
Becoming a trustee is probably something I'm very proud of because it allowed me to be who I really am. And I learned that my value is really with this idea that there has to be fairness and there has to be
Mhm.
justice. And I have a quick story. Okay. So
Yeah.
at DC, I had to kind of evaluate because I need to decide the direction of my life. So I
Mhm.
thought back of when I was about like maybe 10, um, yeah, about 10 or 11. We live in a small little apartment, 2 bedroom for a family of 6, barely 2 bedroom, had a little garage. But the best thing about that apartment was that it was a corner unit. It had grass on the side. We're on the first floor. So imagine all that space for, little kids, right?
Mhm.
So our family play out there a lot.
Mhm.
One day my sister, who is about 4 years younger than I am, she found a dog, a little cute little puppy hanging out in the grass area, and she um, watched, but didn't go anywhere near the dog. Next day, still there. Third day, still there. So she begged my dad, who literally is working for minimum wage, please, can we have this dog? And of course, as a parent, all of the things that relate to carrying a dog came into mind, right?
Mhm.
So he ultimately gave in and said, yes, but we have to make sure that it's not anybody's dog, right? Because we don't want to be stealing. So there's no leash. And after the 3 days, he concluded, well, it's possible, but we have to take him to the vet. So we had no money. My mom was sewing for a living.
Mhm.
And my dad, I think, worked at a furniture store at the time for like barely minimum wage. And so, but he said, okay, I'm going to do this for you. So we took the dog to the vet, paid a bunch of money for a vaccination, you name it, the whole make sure the dog's okay, because we wanted the dog to be inside nighttime, okay, at
Mhm.
least in the
Mhm.
garage. And then afterwards, about, I say, almost a week later, while my dog was out playing, when my sister was out playing with the dog, two ladies, Caucasian ladies, came by and said, wait, that's our dog. Oh, there's no leash. And they wanted to take the dog. And we said, no. My sister grabbed the dog, ran into the house, closed and we thought it was the end of it. But that evening, those two ladies, along with the police car with, I think, at least two police officers were there. And my dad was home at that time. And they talked to him. My dad says, no, you guys just stay inside the house. But then he came in and he grabbed the dog. And my sister is screaming like, no, this is my dog. Ultimately, sorry, this is such a long story. I haven't told this in a while. The police said, no, you have to give up the dog. And my dad said, okay, can we at least be reimbursed the monies that we spend, which at the time was a lot. It's a few $100s, but it was a lot. And
Mhm.
he instructed me to go and get the receipts, which we still had. I was like, oh, okay. So I went in, I said, okay, at least we get the money back. We gave it to the police officer. And the lady said, no, thanks, but no. And that was the end of that story. And I asked my dad, well, what happened? What did they say? They said, no, we're just not going to do this. And I felt the way that we were treated during that whole time was that we are not equal to the two ladies. The two ladies, middle-aged ladies, were believed before they, I think, even consider our side of the story.
Mm.
So that kind of stuck with me, and I felt like that was really wrong. At least give us a chance. The officers didn't even talk to us. The kids to just get the story. So I felt like they didn't give us a chance. And so that made me realize my value. What makes
Mhm.
me happy is making sure that there is fairness. Okay, it
Mhm.
doesn't have to be complete justice, but fairness
Mhm.
for everybody involved in all transactions.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so when I reflected, I decided that's probably my thing. And it's really true because
Mhm.
what I do now as a fiduciary is really, I get an opportunity to gather information from people, whether they're involved in businesses or individuals, even as a trustee, and kind of figure out what's wrong and find a way to resolve sort of the dispute legally or financially or
Mhm.
however else it needs to be resolved so that it's consistent with the law and my duties.
Yeah. That story you told sounds like a superhero origin story that should be made a movie to a movie. So, you mentioned terms justice and fairness, which you kind of alluded as two separate things. Can you just share a little bit about what the differences are?
I think for me, this is just my definition. Okay. There is fairness that's outside of the law, like what's really fair. And then justice to me relates to the law. So even though the law is designed to bring about fairness, it's not always the case. It depends on the different perspectives. Because the hardest thing for me to explain to my legal clients is this concept in bankruptcy called preference. I don't know if you are familiar,
Mhm.
but it is when creditors are paid a certain amount within a few days within 90 days of bankruptcy. Let's say they're paid first, they're preferred over other creditors. Well, that is an injustice under bankruptcy.
Mhm.
And what trustees and sometimes debtors in big Chapter 11 case have to do is go and get that money back and redistribute it equally amongst
Mm.
all of the creditors.
Mhm.
So if you represent a client that's received a lot of money right before the bankruptcy filing, you have to explain to them, well, even though you're not paid in full, you have to give that money back so that they can reshuffle all that and pay equally all the other creditors. So that I think has a combination of justice and fairness. It kind of is fair if you think about it. Everybody gets the same percentage of distribution. So that's fair outside of the law, but they incorporate that in the preference law.
So, obviously, attorneys have a reputation for working very long hours. So how do you balance your personal life and your work life?
Very good question. Very difficult. It's a very difficult thing to do. But through the years, what I've learned is that I wear many hats. So I accept that. I'm a mom, 2 beautiful, wonderful children. I'm a wife, right? I am a partner at my law firm. I'm a trustee, and I'm an elected officer for this national bankruptcy organization. So recognizing that you have all of those roles, for me, I make sure I allocate time in the different categories that I have chosen for myself, right? Nobody made those choices for me. So because I've chosen them, I have to figure out, okay, what's my value in terms of being a partner? I got to make sure that I manage younger associates. I got to make sure that I'm involved in the marketing, and there's only so many hours. And so if I allocate, let's say in a week, if I allocate, about 3 to 4 hours for the mentorship and the marketing, that makes me feel good. That's it. I don't have to do way more than that. And then for mommy, same thing. Each role, as long as I allocate the hours for the role to at least achieve what's important to me in that role, I'm okay, because I'm not perfect and there's only a limited number of hours, and you just can't please everybody. So
right. Obviously, you came here as a child and kind of like you known as the, half generation, right? Yeah, but probably have spent more of your life in the United States. So how do you stay connected to the Vietnamese heritage and culture?
well, my parents, they're my parents and my in-laws, constant, very good reminders of who we are and where we came from. But the events in Bolsa, when my kids were little, especially, I made it a point to take them there. So then you have to explain. I do go to the temple, not as often as I would like. And I keep in close contact and hang out with my Baba's friends. That's the Vietnamese American Bar Association. That's all my Vietnamese attorneys. So it's neat to share our stories.
All right. What would you say some of the values or principles that guide you in your work and your personal life?
Being true to myself, I think, is very important, especially for me now in my career. I feel like I am at the national stage being a board member, and now I'm an elected office. And in a few years, I'll be the president of National Association of Bankruptcy Trustee. That was really intimidating to get. I mean, it was such an honor to get elected, but it was also, very intimidating, because they're all, if you go to the events, I'm probably one of very few Asians to start with, one of very few women Asian, and even in the executive board, of course, we all try to diversify, right? I try to recruit myself. Others are diverse, but I think that it's just, it's really important to kind of be out there and be on that national stage and to represent, because everything we do is not just for us, but is a representation of who we are and our culture and where we come from. Because I'm probably one of, I don't know, some of them never even met. Imagine this is around the country. So have never even met an Asian woman of Vietnamese descent. So it's to me, it's a great opportunity.
So what are some of your goals or aspirations for the future?
Um, I think right now my immediate goal is make sure I do a good job for an ABT.
Mhm.
In terms of future goals, I want to continue to be involved in the Vietnamese American community and help elevate the younger generation because they are the future. It's important to ensure that we have a place and to ensure that, especially with my children growing up, to remember where we came from, who they are. When we hear about, refugees in Afghanistan, for example,
Mhm.
um, I we I discuss it with my kids. That was once us. They
Mhm.
have no clue, of course, being born here and raised here, but the struggles of those refugees were very real for us. And so
Mhm.
um, I use that as an opportunity to discuss where we came from or what's going on right now in Israel and um, with the Hamas, right?
Mhm.
Great
Mhm.
opportunities.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for your help with kind of that situation going on. And finally, what advice would you give to other Vietnamese diaspora who want to follow in your footsteps?
I think I'm going to have to go back to the fact that it took me a while to get to where I wanted to go. So it's important to explore, find out what you're passionate about, what moves you, what are your values. Those reflections are really important because as you progress in your career, you're going to get to a point where you wonder, like, why am I working so hard? Right? Especially with the pandemic,
Mhm.
I think people are
Yeah,
realizing
yeah.
but if you have the answer, if you know your why, your days are feels very blessed. Like for me,
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm happy most of the time because I'm very comfortable and excited about all of the things that goes on in my work life and my personal life.
Mhm.
And life is a journey. So
Mhm.
after you
Mhm.
explore, just don't foreclose the idea that you could one day be whatever or whoever. Um, but you have you to live with for the rest of your life. So you better be
Mhm.
comfortable with who you're living with.
So Linda, thank you. Thank you again for hanging out with us, sharing your wisdom and your journey. And we hope to see you more and talk to you more in the future.
Thank you. Thank you for the
Okay.
opportunity.
Likewise.